Hello, my name is Tatiana Webb, and this is Off the Record, brought to you by Nana Music Productions. Today, we have Wyatt Edmondson in the studio with us. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. Great to be here.
Thank you for being here. I'll say I'm so happy to have a familiar face on the show. When I tell y'all guys, we go way back. We are each other's origin stories as far as just getting to music. But Wyatt is a Americana country artist. He was originally from Montgomery, Alabama. Now he's in Nashville, and he is killing the game with his music. So I'm just again so blessed and honored to have him on the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much.
no problem. So, can we talk a little bit about that background? So, I know for people who don't know, we both went to St. James, going through elementary, middle school, high school. We were in the marching band together. We ended up balancing on a 12-foot, what was it? A Trojan horse, a metal Trojan horse, riding onto a football field together, singing Rock Odyssey and stuff like that. And I mean, we've done a lot of performances together. So, but as far as getting into his background, Maya, I want to know what got you really into music? What got you to be in the marching band and starting that whole process?
Totally. Well, yeah, again, super awesome to be here talking to you, Tatiana. As she said, we are very old friends. I don't really even remember meeting you. It was just sort of like, you were always there, like, cause I mean, I moved to St. James, the campus that we went to when I was in the third grade, and you were a grade under me. So, I mean,
Second grade.
yeah, so I mean, that was probably when we first met, but again, like, you were always there to me, and so, is that a problem, by the way?
No,
Okay,
absolutely not.
okay, great, yeah, anyway, so, um, yeah, so, I mean, I I think our relationship really blossomed when we got into the marching band, like you said, but for me, music was really a part of my life since I was born because, my dad is a musician. My mother's father is very musical. He's a piano tuner and plays music. And I mean, I remember being 5 years old. I mean, first off, even sooner than that, when I was in preschool, my mom I mean, she got me into Stevie Wonder. I was like one of my favorite artists very early on, and Eric Clapton. And I was listening to I remember being into music at that age. And I mean, she used to drive me to preschool and she'd be playing like um Eric Clapton's version of I Shot the Sheriff, and I'd be jamming in the background, and she would have to turn it down before we got to the carpool line because she felt guilty that a 4-year-old was listening to a song called I Shot the Sheriff, but so it was very, very natural for me to love music. And then I started playing the guitar first. I tried getting into the guitar when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and my dad was trying to kind of get me into it. And I got very frustrated early on, and I kinda just said, "The heck with this. The guitar is your thing, it's not my thing." And I just went out and started playing sports with my friends, and then fast forward to about 12, 13 years old, I started to gain interest in music again, and I was getting into the guitar, and then throughout middle school, I got into the middle school band at St. James, and I was playing the tenor saxophone, and that was interesting to me, and I enjoyed being in the band, but I never really felt super connected to playing saxophone, and so I kinda gave it up and took that energy and put it even more into just playing the guitar, and I started a band with a couple of guys at St. James that I was really close friends with, and we there was a talent show that St. James was doing that I don't actually think it ever happened. It was something that was just sort of half-baked, if you will, but it definitely was the genesis of my putting a band together because we sort of put the band together for the talent show, and I remember we were in my dad's little jam room at our house in Cloverdale, and we were all there with our instruments, but none of us were prepared to sing. And we all thought, we'll just get some girl to come sing or something because we're all too cool for that. Well, my dad looked at me and he was like, Wyatt, you're going to be the singer.
Mm.
and I had never really sung much at all, and so I started doing that, and I was not very good at first. In fact, I remember, I'm not gonna say who, but I remember someone that I was in class with telling me I sounded like a drunk Jimi Hendrix. That's what
Oh,
they said, which in hindsight's actually a compliment,
that
but
is.
I don't think they really knew that at the time. But, when they told me that, it even lit a fire in me even deeper to sort of prove them wrong, and so
Yeah.
I got very serious about, playing music, and then when I was about 15 is when really everything just opened up, and there was a couple of very pivotal moments that happened for me sort of all at once, and it was very much a God thing. The first of those being that I decided that I wanted to be in the marching band,
Mm.
and that was completely, again, just sort of a series of coincidences. I joined Susan Smith, the band director at St. James, she started a guitar elective, and I was, a sophomore in high school, and I just thought, well, this will be an easy class for me to take. I was already in a band playing guitar by that point, and I was like, this will just be an easy A. And I got in there, and within about a week and a half, it was me and the other guitar player in my band that were essentially the student teachers of the class.
Mm.
We were showing everybody else how to play the guitar, and she pulled me into her office and was like, "Hey, I want you to join the marching band." And I was like, "Well, I appreciate that, but I don't play saxophone anymore. I stopped doing that." And she was like, "No, no, no, I want you to play the electric guitar."
Mhm.
And I was just had like if I was a cartoon, I would have had one of those question marks over my head. I was just like, how do you play electric guitar in a marching band? I didn't really understand how that would be possible. And then she introduced me to Robert Smith, and I showed up for the rhythm section, and the rest is history. And so that was a huge part of it. But then the other piece that really ties into my story, into this album, was around that same time I learned about my eye condition called retinitis pigmentosa. And my parents had known about it since I was 5 years old. It's genetically passed in my family through my grandfather. So he had it, still has it. And while I was diagnosed at 5, the condition is progressive, so I really had pretty normal vision until I got to be into my early teenage years, and so they didn't want me to carry a complex of feeling like I was disabled as a young kid, so they really didn't mention it to me until it was sort of inevitable. And I remember the moment. I was, again, about 15 years old, and I was walking through the, English building of St. James, and I was going to, uh, Coach McIntyre's class. I was on the way there, and there were some students that were sitting on the floor with their backs towards the walls in the hallway, and they were just kinda maybe working on homework or studying or whatever, and they had their legs out.
Mhm.
Well, I tripped over them and I fell, and there'd been a lot of other things that had kinda come up to this point. I was I was on the football team as a wide receiver. I was horrible.
Ooh.
There was a lot of, coordination related things that I just always kinda thought I was just clumsy. I never really, it never occurred to me that I had an eye condition. And then after that situation with me falling in front of basically the entire class and just feeling that humiliation, I went home and asked my parents. I was like, why is this happening to me?" And then that's when they sat me down and they said, "Hey, you've inherited this eye condition from your grandfather." And in that moment, I was filled with a lot of emotion, and I was very afraid, and I was a little angry, and I felt some negative emotion at first, and I sort of was just asking God, like, why me? And I remember, after about maybe a week's, a couple of my friends say it might have been closer to 2 weeks, but about a week or so of feeling pretty depressed, I remember sitting on the stairwell, kind of where the band room and the choir room intersected, the outdoor stairwell, and I was just sitting out there, and I was with, a friend or so at the time, and I remember just having this experience of, like, I felt like a voice inside basically say, you know, you might have this condition and you might have some challenges, but music is going to be the outlet that you use to not only express yourself, but to realize your full potential. And I knew in that moment that music was going to be the trajectory of my life. And so I went from feeling depressed to feeling excited because I was like, well, actually, I know what I want to do with my life. A lot of these other 15, 16-year olds that I'm in class with
Mhm.
don't even know what they wanna do, they don't even know what kinda job they wanna have, but I already know I wanna be a rock star,
There you
you know?
go.
And so it was very clear for me, and then when we got into marching band and I started to be mentored by the Smiths, both Susan and Robert, um, it just really it lit a fire, and so it just never stopped from there, and then, of course, you and I went to Troy together and studied even further under Robert, and, yeah, and then I moved to Nashville.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, wow, whole story. One, I didn't know that you played the tenor sax. That is something that's new information for me. So I was like,
Yeah.
wait, no, you were a saxophone player?
Yeah, I was for a couple of years, and to be honest, I hated it. I
Y-
really I had a private instructor who was a former band director at, St. James, Mr. Vitti,
Yeah.
and I used to go take lessons from him, and I just never identify and I also took, piano when I was a kid as well, and I was taking piano lessons, with saxophone lessons because his wife was a piano instructor, so I was taking lessons from both of them, and I just didn't love it, and I remember him saying, ironically, when I was in a lesson with him one time, he was like, "You're never gonna do anything with a guitar, guitar is a waste of time, you need to be playing the saxophone," and I remember feeling a little bit of irony our senior year of high school when I was, doing the electric guitar
Yeah.
for the marching band, which was his marching band. He was like one of the original band directors in St. James, and I just kind of felt like, actually, Mr. Vitti, I am doing quite a lot with the
Yeah, you're
guitar.
performing in front of, 20, 30,000 people with a
Yeah.
guitar and standing on a stage, being a rock star, being Odysseus, because that was the theme.
Mm.
And I'm just like, yeah, like nothing with my life. Got it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
just funny how those things work out.
And what that's funny enough because that's actually the instrument that I started on too, in 7th grade. I was not a tenor, but I was a saxophone, alto
Right.
sax, and so, I would made it 2 weeks because all we were doing was breathing, and I'm like, "You know what? I do better at singing," so I went to
Yeah.
choir. But wow, I mean, and yeah, the you know, with everything that you kinda went through, I'm so happy that you found inspiration in your music because Imma tell you, if y'all haven't heard Wyatt perform, it is truly an experience. I am so proud of how he and how you have grown as an artist. Because I remember what we were doing and what we were looking like, in high school, trying to figure out, like, that single that we put out. I
Mhm.
forgot what it was,
Oh, it's
but it
called "Let's Get Together." It was the
yeah, let's
first
get
song I
together.
ever wrote.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so we had the little rock band and everything, and,
ST
um
Jam.
yeah, oh my god. That brings back memories.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, going from ST Jam and Let's Get Together to now you are a very successful Nashville artist doing your tours and writing songs and, I mean, you're killing it. I'm just again, I can't express how much I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
Um
Thank you.
so I know you've got a ton of music that you've done. I know you've done several albums. So if you haven't checked that out, please go check him out on Spotify or wherever you stream your music because he's got it out there. But I really want to focus in on your new project.
Mhm.
Can we talk a little bit about Make Light of the Dark?
Yes, I'm very, very excited, and I think even a better word is humbled by this project that hasn't even been recorded yet. But I had an idea last year. I spent the better part of early 2025. I was doing a lot of reading, and for low vision, that's usually audiobooks, which is what it was for me. And I wanted to learn more about people who dealt with blindness or low vision that were inspirational in some way. And so I read a few bios on people like Ray Charles and this one guy that I read a story on, his name is Eric Wyanmere. And he is the only blind person to summit Mount Everest.
Oh, wow.
And he's actually completed all of the 7 major summits, on Earth. So, Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount McKinley and all the others. So, I read his book, and I was completely inspired by that story, and I just sort of felt a sense of empowerment after reading both Ray Charles's bio and Eric's bio. And again, I got an idea for a song after playing an event in Nashville that I almost didn't do.
Mm.
And it was just sort of this startup company with this app they were trying to put out that was essentially like a all-in-one requesting and tipping app. And they asked me to be a part of their launch party and as an artist. And so I got up there and played like a 45-minute set. And it was just one of those things that I just kinda said yes to, and, when I finished the set, for your listeners who don't know, with retinitis pigmentosa at my stage, it's very common to use a white cane, and so I do. I've started using a cane about halfway through college, and now it's something that I use daily, and, especially at night because RP particularly affects your vision in low light. So I'm at this little brewery here in Nashville, and I finished my set, and you know, I get my cane out and I start trying to find a place to sit. And I was there alone, so it was just one of those situations where you kind of have to just make friends. And for me, it's that's not ever really been a challenge, but people are especially accommodating and friendly when they see someone who might need some assistance like me. And so I found this table to sit at, and it was just random strangers, and I sat down next to this girl and we started chatting. And I'm usually a pretty self-deprecating person with this. I find that's a really good way to break down the barriers for people, especially if they don't have experience dealing with someone who's blind. And after making some jokes and just kind of letting my personality shine through, she said, you really kind of make light of that situation. And that really wasn't a comment that carried a lot of weight, but for some reason, it made me think of this idea of, make light of the dark. That's kind of cool, And so I wrote that in my phone, and a few weeks later, I got together with my friend and fellow musician songwriter D. White, who's also from Alabama. He's from Slap Out, and he is just a phenomenal talent. The two of us got together to do some co-writing, and I pitched him this idea of Make Light of the Dark, and I told him about the book that I read by Eric Weinmayer, which is called Touch the Top of the World, and we just immediately just started in on this song. And it was one of those songs that, the best songs, they always just kinda fall out. And, I mean, I think we probably wrote it in under 45 minutes, and, it took shape into becoming the cornerstone for a project that I now call my resilience record. And I want it to be an album that not only showcases who I am as a person, but raises awareness about people who deal with low vision and blindness issues, but really anybody who is met with a challenge and uses that challenge to find inspiration. I think that's really what Make Light of the Dark is about, because when you have some darkness, if it's depression or hard times or just a bad day, but then you choose to find a positive and a silver lining and gain inspiration from that, then you're making light of the dark. And so that was the mission statement of the album. And as the album started to take shape from a songwriting perspective, I got together with other extremely talented songwriters here in Nashville, and we wrote songs with that in mind. And there's songs about loving through adversity, and there's songs about just never letting that light inside you go out, and just to keep it burning all the time. And yeah, I mean, it's really become an album that for me is more than just a batch of songs. It's an album with a mission statement, and I'm very pleased to say that people are starting to recognize that, and I've had some pretty incredible opportunities already take shape. Like I'm partnering with the Foundation Fighting Blindness on this album, and a portion of all the net proceeds from the album cycle are going to be donated to them. And what they do is they help research centers receive funding so that they can conduct their research and hopefully find a cure for blindness. And so I've had a lot of interest from them, and like I said, we've officially, um, come into a partnership on this album, so I'm super excited about that, and then I've had already again, it's not very common that you get press interest when the music's not even out there yet, but I've already received coverage by No Depression, which is a major publication, and so they're already on board and interested, and I've already got TV spots lined up for when the album comes out for, Fox affiliates here in Nashville that broadcast nationally to over 23 million viewers on per week, and so it's just really amazing to see the support, and again, humbling, and without blabbering too much, I mean, I'll segue into the crowdfunding aspect of this album because as an independent artist,
Mm.
um, I don't have a label and I don't have major label funding that other artists would have. And so what I decided to do was to lean on the people who matter most, the fans, to say, guys, this is what I want to do. And if you want to help me bring it to life, then here's how you can do that. And what I love about Kickstarter is that it's not like a GoFundMe where you just pledge, money and kind of just don't really get anything for it. With Kickstarter, you're essentially pre-ordering the album and some other really amazing rewards as well, like handwritten lyrics or behind the scenes footage or having me come play a house concert, things like that. And so people get something for their contribution. And yeah, again, very humbling to see where we are with the campaign. At the timing of this podcast, we've got about 6 days left to go. I think when it comes out, we'll have about 4 days left to go, and I mean we're closing in on the funding goal, and it's an all or nothing campaign too. So these last final days really matter.
Yeah, and that's something that as far as someone who is hesitant and, especially on the financial part of it, understand that this is a pledge. So this is if it happens, then great, that's obviously when the charge hits, but you're not just, you know, putting in a pledge for it. You're supporting an artist and you're supporting a mission and you're partnering with Wyatt here, who
Mhm.
is trying to do something that is going to impact not just this isn't a pleasure album where you're just going to do it because you want to do it. This is going to impact lives. It's going to help, like how you said, it's a resiliency album. It's a project for people who kind of can internalize what their darkness is and being able to make light out of that. So if you haven't already pledged to his campaign on Kickstarter, please do that. Go ahead. I mean, there's different variations of the packages on there, and I mean, I'm gonna tell you, if you are on a budget, you can still do this. You can still support and give to this great cause. And I've already got mine. So if y'all are talking about acting what is it, walking what you talk and all that stuff, I've already done mine. So
Mhm.
please support Wyatt and be able to help him bring this to light because this is going to be amazing. And I'm just
Yeah.
looking forward
Well, I
to it.
think I think you bring up an important point too about no pledge is too small.
Yeah.
In fact, most people don't know this, and this is my second Kickstarter, so I'm learning more this time than I did the last time. The last time I didn't really, I was kind of building the plane while I was flying it, but
Yeah.
this time has been much more calculated. And one of the things that I learned is that small pledges like $5, $10, those actually help a lot because the more pledges you have, um, the more Kickstarter recognizes your project and in an algorithmic way. And in fact, my project has already been recognized by Kickstarter as what they call projects we love, which is huge because it's now being featured on the browse section of their website. And so I've had contributions from people who just stumbled across the campaign while they were browsing Kickstarter. And that's because of small pledges. It's much more advantageous to have 100 $5 pledges than one $500 pledge, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So again, if you haven't already done so, I'll be sure to have the link in the description below so that everyone can just stream, like literally streamline going to go get your taking your pledge to this project. But no, I'm so excited about it. So when it comes out, I'm looking forward to the little perks that I bought or pledged to. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to that. Um,
absolutely.
Now, okay, so you've given us a lot about who you are and what you're doing and stuff. So I do, before we close out, I always ask my artists and people that I have on the show, what is something or what is a piece of advice that you would give to someone that has either been in your position or just starting off in the music industry? What would be your takeaway that you would like for them to take from this episode?
Own your vulnerability, whatever that is. I think today there is so much music being made, and I don't say this to be discouraging. I say it to say that when if you really want to carve a space for yourself in the industry and in the space of just content being put out there. I mean, I think there's like something like 26,000 songs that get put on Spotify every week, or maybe it's every day. It's an insane amount of music that's being put out there. Plus, none of it ever goes away. If you think about it like that, there's music from the 70s that's still the most popular music out there. So what I'm saying is, if you own your vulnerability, you find out who you are and what makes you not necessarily special, but what makes you have an impact. And you usually what that is something that you might feel vulnerable about or feel like it could be a hindrance to you rather than a strength. And I think again for me, leaning into the fact that I'm part of the blind and low vision community and trying to connect with people who that is a part of their life through music has been such an amazing, um has had such a big impact on my career already, and so I think, even if you just think you're a normal guy or a normal girl, I promise you that there's something in you and that's part of your story that needs to shine through in your music and just how you present yourself. And so I would ask a younger artist to just dig deep and find what is it that you are afraid of, or what is it that you think you don't want people to know about you. And I would encourage you to own it and to put it out there, because I guarantee you people people gravitate towards imperfection and towards honesty a lot more than they gravitate towards something that looks perfect and that it looks completely refined. Because I mean, again, Instagram, social media, we all try to present ourselves in a way that is inauthentic at the end of the day. And I think that now more than ever, people are craving something that's real and something that's rough around the edges. And so I would encourage younger artists and whoever to just be rough around the edges.
Yeah, no, I love that because with your vulnerability, it's really easy to fall into a victimization kind of mindset and even like say, oh, this is something that I can't share, I can't, let the people see of me. So let's create this shell and, not share that part of me. And it could be really easy. It's really easy to slip into that victimization thing. One thing my mom always said was, don't be a victim of your own victimization. So, so with that, going into your point of, embracing your vulnerability and, you know, being, you know, making it easy to just share yourself. And then also, like how you say, embrace the parts of you that is real. So that way you can create that impact. I love how you phrase that. So, I hope whoever's listening to this, you really take what Wyatt said and you apply it to your life because that is going to make your life so authentic, so real, and it's not going to be hard to keep up with because you are just being you, and so that's what makes you know people and people who you're trying to work with want to work with you because now you don't have to put up a persona anymore. You're being your name and who you are. So thank you so much. Okay, so thank you for that. how can people follow you? How can people like I know we're doing this Make Light of the Dark project. I know you're in Nashville now. So do you have some social media that people can follow or some upcoming performances that they can come see you at?
Absolutely. So I'm on all platforms that I think are relevant, which is basically Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And on Facebook and Instagram, it is at Wyatt Sees Songs, like sees with your eyes. It's kind of a joke, but I happen to love it. And then on TikTok, it's just at Wyatt Edmondson. So I'm on those platforms. I have an email list as well that I'm very active on my website. You can sign up, which is just wyattedmondson.com. That is my closest community is the email list. As far as upcoming shows, I actually do have some pretty exciting stuff coming up. Next week, March the 4th, we're going to be doing a celebratory show here in Nashville to celebrate the successful funding of the album, fingers crossed, at Margaritaville on Broadway on the second floor. And that's Wednesday, March the 4th at 6:30 p.m. I'm going to have a bunch of my favorite co-writers from the album and artists who've just helped me make the project a reality come and be a part of that. And the lineup is actually just incredible. So I'm so excited for that. I am doing a little bit of touring in March, not a ton because we're still gearing up to make the record in April, but I'll be in my hometown, Montgomery, Alabama, on March 20th at Jerry's Juke Joint. Tickets are on sale now for that. I will be doing a run at the end of March. I will be going through Atlanta, Georgia, playing Smith's Old Bar. And that will be, I believe, on March 27th. The next day, I'll be in Huntsville, Alabama at Interspace Brewing. And then the third day, I will be at the Blue Canary, which is in Georgia as well. I'm blanking on the city right now, but it is somewhere in Georgia, the Blue Canary. Look it up. If you're close to that, come see me. And then after that, I'll be hopping in the studio on April 6th with Bobby Holland, who we didn't talk about Bobby, but Bobby is a Grammy nominated producer who also has retinitis pigmentosa, and that's how we met. And that's another reason why this record is so important.
That's amazing. That's gonna be a really cool project. I'm really excited about it. So
Thank
to
you.
have people who are alike working on projects like that, that's gonna be really cool to again push the impact of that. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for being on the show. We will definitely be having you on the show again soon. So and hopefully you'll be in Montgomery so that way we can be in our podcast studio so that way we can further discussion. But thank you so
absolutely.
yeah. But thank you so much for being on the show. If you like what you heard, you can follow the podcast at Nana Music _ off the record. You can also follow the company at Nana Music Productions. Or if you'd like to follow me, you can follow me at webwebb.tatiana M. And just remember, this podcast was off the record.